What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gin and Juice. It's your boy Michael Mayers here, as always, with Jad. How you doing, Jad?
Yo, what's up? This is Jad. Good to be here. A lot of fights, so we can talk a lot about stuff today.
Yeah, we have a lot of options to start wherever we really want to. We're coming off the heels of UFC featuring Israel Adesanya and Anderson Silva taking on each other, and we just had a wonderful Sunday matinee last night, treated to a 26-second knockout by way of the Predator Francis Ngannou over top of Cain Velasquez. Where do you want to start? We got
By way of knee buckle or whatever.
I mean, that's a pretty good natural segue. I think you've made your decision. So
Yes.
let's talk about that Francis Cain Velasquez main event from last night, from Talking Stick Resort Arena, probably one of the worst arena names. It's in
Absolutely.
Phoenix.
That's in Phoenix. Yeah.
It's, Talking Stick Resort
Wow.
Arena. First of all, before we get into the fights, how bad is that name?
I've never heard a worse name.
Like Smoothie King Center is also pretty bad in New Orleans.
Kings. Okay.
That one's pretty bad too.
Yeah.
But I think Talking Stick Resort Arena does take the cake as number one worst, like in North America.
What is talking stick, anyways?
That's a great question. I don't know. It's obviously a sponsor of theirs.
Right.
Talking Stick Resort. Maybe it's it's the
okay.
name of a resort, right?
Okay.
Like,
But
so,
why?
Yes, it is.
Why
It's a
that
casino. It's a resort and casino. So
Talking stick.
they just took. It's like the same thing as a Rogers Center, except
Right.
instead of calling it the name of their business is not Rogers. It's Talking Stick Resort. So it's horrible. Like you couldn't call it the TSR Arena or something like that. Like that's so bad.
Yeah,
but-
for real. Just like at least shorten it or something.
right? Like, oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, so we did have a little sick fight there going on in the Talking Stick Resort Arena. Phoenix, the hometown of Cain Velasquez, the one who did take the fall in the fight. Now, obviously, with it being the nature of a 26-second knockout, what are your thoughts on the fight in general and Cain Velasquez showing up after a 2-year layoff?
Well, I gotta be honest with you, man. Like even before the fight, I kind of like I was looking at all the pre-fight embeddeds or what. Did they even do an embedded? I don't think so, but whatever they did, the breakdowns before that. I was looking at Kane, and it seemed to me that I don't know. I don't want to say something was off, but I had like kind of a hunch that he would probably lose.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was going to win. I thought that it was going to be one of those classic situations similar to Conor and Khabib, where the longer the fight went on, the more it was going to favor the wrestler, the top
Correct.
heavy wrestler, and then you had this dominant type of striker. So yeah, with that being said, I mean, Kane did what I thought he should start doing, which is movement, head movement, whatever, and then 20 seconds into it, he abandoned the game plan.
Yeah.
For those 6 seconds, he did not look like he was doing what his corner had taught him to
He
do.
was throwing kicks, head
He was
kicks.
throwing some kicks, and it all started with that head kick. He zoned him with a head kick
Yeah.
and stepped right back into the pocket immediately, and Francis just kind of zoned him toward the cage,
Yes.
uncorked a right. The right kind of glanced him on the back of the head because there was a level change by Kane.
And we just saw Kane say in another interview that it didn't really hurt him. That grazing shot to
Right.
the back of the head, it didn't really hurt him. But I mean, in that flurry of just punches, I don't think a lot of them really landed, except for that uppercut, hook, whatever you want to call it. That came like when they were in the pocket, which actually buckled.
Yeah,
Kane.
that's the thing. There's a lot of controversy now about the way that the 26-second transpired. Not that the fact that it wasn't one of those classic situations where you're wondering if the fight was stopped early or if he was actually out or any of that.
Right.
What the problem was is there was a point where Kane's knees buckled, and post-fight he was citing that as the reason to why he dropped.
Right.
And Francis was saying the opposite by saying that no, it was a tight uppercut that caught him square and then his knees buckled. I tend to agree with Francis when I watched it live, and watching the replays
So
didn't change
what?
my mind.
Let's kind of break this down. So what are people actually saying, or what is the actual dilemma here? If Kane's knee buckled and that's the reason why he lost, does that mean that Francis is not as talented, or
Exactly.
does it mean that he doesn't deserve the credit he's supposed to get?
That's my biggest problem too. Is like, so what if his knee did buckle? I mean, his knee buckled because, well, clearly, I think his knee buckled because he got his senses snapped out of him. He
Absolutely.
got hit with a sharp shot. His lights went out for a bit, and when he got hit, his legs were spread wide with not being underneath his base. So when the lights went out a little bit, most guys would drop to a knee. Well, guess what? His legs were in the same position you would be in if you were trying to stop when you were learning how to ski, the pizza.
Yes, yes,
His legs
exactly.
were in that position, super
Yeah,
wide out when he got hit.
yeah,
So then his weight just collapsed, and
exactly.
like it might have torqued his knee a lot. And we don't know what the
Hmm.
extent of the damage to his knee is
I would
yet,
imagine he's a
but
heavy
I
dude.
think the punch translated to that. I don't think the knee just buckled out of nowhere.
No.
We've seen knees buckle out of nowhere. Dominic Cruz, others, where they're not even able to stand afterwards.
Hmm.
Because usually when there's a non-contact injury,
Yes,
no, no,
I
no,
agree
no,
with
no,
that.
no. So for me, I don't buy it. I think Kane's kind of searching for anything to grasp at to just convince himself that he wasn't just simply bested that night, and perhaps he's trying to shelter himself from some kind of a psychological doubt that he might have about his own abilities, because he was cited saying that he doesn't want to fight unless he's at his best and able to compete for a championship at the same level he was fighting at before.
Correct. But I think that that doubt was there way back in that 2 year period before this fight. There's no way he didn't doubt himself before that. He's been gone for 2 years. That's ages in MMA time.
For sure.
The sport has moved on. When he made his run in the heavyweight division was a different time, really. Was I mean, yeah, we were seeing some of the old guys still fighting now, but you can see them getting old. There's no doubt about it. Someone that had back surgery, I don't even know what did he have knee surgeries prior to that, Kane? He probably did.
Yeah, he did.
Shoulder surgery, whatever. Like he had a bunch of stuff going on. So I don't know. There's no way he didn't question himself whether he can do it or not after 2 years, all these injuries, and the sport moving so fast.
For sure. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that are like George St. Pierre or John Jones
Right.
that can come back and actually put up a fight, and then like not just like, oh, they were competitive and then they left. Like, no, they look like they can actually still do stuff at a similar level to where they were when they were there before.
Right. Also, that's the thing, right? What is what was Cain Velasquez's style? I mean,
It
why is
was
his
that
body breaking down?
It's that grinding, hard
Right.
top heavy wrestling
Exactly.
style.
Yeah. So you can't really, yeah, George St. Pierre can, his style transpired across the ages and he can come back and have a great fight. Mind you, it was again Bisping. I mean, we didn't throw GSP to someone like Yoel or, which would probably look differently. But, anyways, a person that like GSP that kind of like try to preserve himself, like have a defensive style of fighting, absorb as little as possible, yeah, he can come back. And even him, he's careful. What fights he takes. He's not gonna take just any fight. He's not gonna come do like 5 fights. He's coming for one fight and that's it, and cashing out. So Kane talking about coming back and making a whole run for the heavyweight division again.
Him and Cormier had this weird plan where it's like, oh, I'm gonna vacate the title and you're gonna take your spot that you had
Right.
before I took it. They put up a utopian type of idea of how they wanted Kane to ride off into the sunset. And I thought it was silly to put that kind of pressure on yourself, honestly.
It must be also weird for Kane to have DC there training with him the whole time while he was away, and just see DC just win and do all these things that were never done
While being
before.
older than you, too.
Right. And coming into the game after you, in a way. So, and you have this great friendship with this guy, you're training every day, and now you're about to come back after this long period of injuries. I believe Ken also had a kid in the process while he was away. I think he
Yes,
had
he
a
did. He took a
yeah.
paternal leave for a
Right.
year to be with his kid for their first year of their life and to be with his wife throughout the entire duration of the pregnancy. So that's 2 years right
Which
there.
much credit for
I
doing
love
that.
that.
I love
As
that.
a
I love
man,
that.
I can
Absolutely.
appreciate that. But do understand when you come back, don't talk like you're just gonna be a champion immediately.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that you have to speak confidently and all that kind of stuff. But for me personally, I feel like the it didn't help that Daniel Cormier does commentary, and so when he says something, it's not the same as Joe Rogan, but it's approaching that same level of clout. People know who you
Sure,
are.
of
Like,
course.
not a lot of guys just have their friends that are fighters come and talk on their preview,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So it didn't help that there was that added pressure and a level of expectation, which is fine. And Kane's not somebody who was wilting under pressure historically, but this is a different type of pressure he had never felt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, oh, this is a big fight. It's, oh, this is my first big fight in like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's that caveat changes the type of pressure that you're going to experience. So I think that was kind of wasn't the smartest strategy to do, but I understand when you got to come in there confidently. But he got knocked out, and he did that to himself. We know what Francis Ngannou brings to the table. We've seen him beat high-profile wrestlers and grapplers in the form of Curtis Blades already. Circling back, the next thing we did want to talk about was Stipe sitting out, so it does translate right into that with DC beating Stipe in a relatively sudden fashion at the end of the first round. If you remember that fight,
Yeah.
he was beating up on DC a little bit. He was getting the best of him in the first half of that first round. And things kind of turned around and he got too confident, too comfortable, and he got caught. And now he just wants his rematch. He was the winningest
Yeah.
heavyweight
Three
championship,
times
four
or
to four
four
defenses,
times?
four defenses. And he deserves to get that shot back. If that's a guy who moves the needle from an entertainment standpoint, a personality standpoint, they're getting that rematch if they defended it even once or even not at all. Sometimes these guys get rematches.
That's true.
So for Stipe to sit there and be the UFC's longest reigning UFC heavyweight champion in terms of title defenses, to not get an immediate rematch is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I know.
And they're talking about Stipe. We have a different things lined up. Like Ngannou's not going to get the next title shot. Stipe's not going to get the next title shot. Talking about this Lesnar thing that I don't know who wants to see. I've seen the Brock Lesnar experiment before. We
Yeah.
saw him when he was juiced up to the gills and he still wasn't able to dominate. Like, so if he was juiced up and wasn't able to, how's he supposed to get off the juice
Exactly,
and come
right?
and do any damage
Yeah.
against a serious champion like Daniel Cormier? That's not nearly as exciting as a John Jones versus Brock Lesnar because they're both personalities. I expect to
Yes.
hear some stuff that's not just pulled out of someone's butt. Like John Jones is genuinely being himself. Daniel Cormier would just be playing it up.
I think so as well.
We'd all see through it, and I don't think it's as much of a draw as I think anyone should be thinking that it is. That whole experiment it's over in my mind, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not as interested in it either. I
What's next for Ngannou too?
Yeah, yeah. It seems to be kind of a mess, all because of the business side of things. They're just trying to make those super fights and see what's gonna draw the audiences, especially now with the new deals with ESPN and all that stuff. It's all about the ratings. So a lot of people might get screwed over. Stipe is one.
Hmm.
Um, I understand how Stipe might not be as appealing to the audience because of the way he talks or whatever. But I mean, for sure, he has like strong points that can be played up on camera. He's a firefighter and all that stuff. I don't know, man. I think that also it's not gonna affect him that well sitting out for who knows how long. What is he gonna do?
He
First of
hasn't
all,
fought since June.
yeah. So he's not making money, and how old is Stipe? Stipe's not that young either.
He's 36.
Oh shit. Okay.
So
Boom. There you
Stipe
go.
is
There you go.
36 and taking some time
Hmm.
off. Also, very interesting that we see that heavyweight, which demands the least amount of least amount of weight cutting because you usually are just already just going in at your normal weight.
Yeah.
We're seeing guys fight at a higher level later in their career. They're not sitting there getting forced to move up because of weight cutting and their age getting
Right. Right. Right.
and them getting up there in age. Guys are fighting at their walk around weight. They might lose a few pounds to get underneath the limit, or again, like they're just they're not doing as much to their body.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's elongating how long. Like Daniel Cormier, you're fighting, you're 40 years old almost. Stipe Miocic, 36 years of age. And you're seeing these guys the guys at the top are not the young bucks. It's rare that you have young,
That's true.
exciting talent in that division
Hmm.
specifically. It's the only one where there's a huge weight gap, and I think that is translating to guys fighting later. Plus, power, like speed's the first thing to go, but power is the last thing to
Oh yeah,
go.
I agree
And
with
in
that.
heavyweight that relies on power over speed, I feel like that on top of it doubles down on how long these guys are able to fight. So Crone Gracie obviously had his first fight representing the Gracie family in the UFC. So go ahead and tell me what you think about Crone.
I mean, he's the really the one that can potentially do something, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it seems like the Gracies, especially maybe this explains why they lost, is because since Hoist in those early days, um, pure jiu-jitsu just doesn't transfer into MMA, right? We all know that you gotta know a lot more than that.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to Crone, he's training with, I guess, with Nate Diaz, with the Diaz brothers. I mean, they were in his corner. I know they're buddies, so
Hmm.
I think they probably taught him a little bit of striking. He looked okay. We didn't really see much of his striking.
Yep. It's good to
Um,
be able to throw as hard as you want to because no one's going to take you down.
that's a fair point. I mean, everybody would avoid getting to the ground with you, and we saw, which was just what a better way.
Bruce Leroy.
What a better way to debut. And Leroy, I kind of like the guy, but
He is the definition of what you call gatekeeper.
yeah.
Like if you're good enough to be in the UFC, just beat him up bad. Like he's been fighting for 11 years. Think
Has
about
it been
that.
11
It's been
years?
11
Oh,
years
wow.
for Bruce Leroy
I didn't even
Caceres. So
know
he's been
that.
fighting for 11
Wow.
years. Crazy, right? I sort of like some OG like Ultimate Fighter stuff from back in the day,
Yeah.
but it's been 11 years and
Yeah.
he's never really gotten past that whole he's never broken through in the top 10
No,
even.
even though he's got the image
He's
potentially to.
always been there, but he's
Yeah.
a gatekeeper.
Right.
Like he's it's like a discount version of Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson can't get into top 5.
Correct.
Caceres can't get into the top 10. He
Yeah.
struggles to stay 15, 14, 13. There's always somebody coming up and he win loss win loss win
Win
loss.
loss.
That's
Yeah.
that's what when you do
Yeah.
that, you're going to stay there, right? But he has always deserved and earned his spot in the UFC. This isn't a guy who has been riding 3, 4, 5, 6 kilo fight losing streaks and still somehow getting employed.
Right.
Like he's winning his fair share as well.
It's true.
So he's a gatekeeper. I mean, if you want to get through to a certain tier, you got to go through him at some point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The staple. So, Chrome Gracie, that's a great first fight for him. I'm excited for him to see where he goes from here. The fight was interesting. I loved it. It was up against the cage, got a hook in, standing up, and then eventually just dug them in, dropped to the ground, looking like an anaconda that just landed on, just
Yeah.
just got it, started hand fighting, and before you knew it, it was
It
done.
was beautiful because yeah, you're like, as soon as he got his back, you're like, is this over? Even before he actually got the, like,
Secured the takedown.
no, yeah, exactly. Even before he had like any type of like exposure to the neck or anything like that, you were like, okay, yeah, this is probably over. Which is amazing because this is a, great PR for all the BJJ schools and all that stuff. I bet you a lot of them were waiting and watching that fight. Um, that's how it usually goes when a BJJ guy is about to debut or fighting. All the BJJ schools are really secretly hoping that he chokes out his opponent because it validates jiu-jitsu. And what better way than to validate the Gracie family in those modern times that have changed the game.
No, for sure. I agree. Like, I mean, um, I think it was really important just to be able to, have that Gracie name because you had Hollis fight, you had Hodger fight, you had obviously Hoist being the legend and Crone fought. But I'm saying like Hollis didn't like he got beat up pretty bad when he fought. He already fought elsewhere and was doing a lot well elsewhere outside the UFC. So that's what commonality is. A lot of these Gracie family members came and fought after they were like past the hill in a certain way. They were just like
Sure.
past that prime. And Crone's coming in here ready to go. He's 30 years old. He's coming in here. That's a good age in the UFC now. Like I
Right.
feel like 30 is just one of those things where your physical and your mental prime are coming toward ahead. And we'll see. We'll see what happens when Crone faces somebody who has better takedown defense, or someone who's just got really good striking. How is he going to be able to deal with that? Is he going to be able to
Yes.
someone who's good at zoning, someone who's good at strike, like keeping you outside of the grappling range? And anytime that you come into the boxing range or kickboxing range, you're getting dealt something that you have to deal with. And an intelligent striker would have a decent
An
time trying to
intelligent
fight him.
striker that has an amazing takedown defense, or is just very strong in comparison to Crone, and doesn't allow him to get taken down, or I don't know. I think that Crone has a great chance against most wrestlers and BJJ guys, grapplers, obviously. And then again, yeah, maybe the one type of fighter that can actually beat him is a striker that can sprawl really well.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Anything else you have to say on
Nope, no,
that?
I'm just looking forward to whatever's next for Chrome, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I hope he gets an actual career in the UFC, not just like a couple fights and disappears after that. I hope he makes a run for the actual title, and this has the potential of selling a lot of tickets maybe one day.
100%. So yeah, moving on to the next one, we guess we have UFC 234. We had Israel Adesanya versus Anderson Silva. What are some of your initial thoughts?
I will tell you exactly what happened when I watched the fight. I was a little bummed out. Even though I know everybody was like so hype, oh, the fight was amazing. It was like the Matrix and all that stuff. I feel like it was just a little overplayed, maybe a little theatrical in a way. They were now Israel wasn't trying to jump and uh, come in at Anderson because he knew that Anderson wanted to just counter. That's I don't think a secret for anybody that's seen Anderson before. But I mean, so from Israel's point of view, I don't really blame Israel because you're fighting this huge name in
Right,
Anderson Silva,
his idol as well.
right? His idol, one of the biggest names in MMA that forever and ever is going to be in the history books, regardless of the way his career is ending now. Um, so you're Israel, you're this, hot prospect, you're fighting this amazing name, this legend that he's a great counter striker. So, yeah, I mean, Israel did great. He was patient. He didn't like stupidly just attack without any, you know, with a reckless abandon or anything like that. So I feel like Israel had a great fight. Anderson, I feel like maybe he should have been a little more aggressive. Although again, we know his style is countering, but I think Anderson should have been a little more aggressive because people. I mean, how many more times do we want to see Anderson lose, man? If I want to see Anderson, I want to see him go out there, knock someone out, or get knocked out. I'm gonna be honest. So I want to see one of those two things, and I don't wish him anything bad. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was kind of like hoping he would get knocked out against Israel
Yep.
because Israel was tagging him, and Anderson started pulling off his old shenanigans, like putting his hands down and absorbing the punches and like just smiling. And Israel, okay, there, not the smartest thing to do, I guess, but whatever. We've seen Anderson get knocked out doing stupid shit like that. So
I agree, man. I mean, I think Anderson's cost himself a lot of matches recently because frankly he was getting bored and he'd stand up against the cage with his back against the cage, egging the person to come and
exactly,
fight him up
yeah, yeah,
against the
yeah, yeah.
cage. And I mean, those kind of antics, it's like you're not even prioritizing winning so much as you're just like, let's put on a spectacle. And like hardcore fans are gonna get tired of the theatrics
How about
after
that
a
kung fu
while.
shit he was doing?
Yeah,
with
yeah,
arms.
that was like wushu, man. I was actually
What?
I was laughing so hard
That's
because I'm like,
hilarious.
that's some stuff that I would do. Like, it's like because you just confuse the person.
Right, 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 right.
Some like some helicopter or like airplane propeller
Right.
looking hands.
Like in a funny way, I see how it can work, and it kind of does in a way, but it's like, dude,
Stop this.
so
But he's
unexpected.
so dangerous that you can't just like roll your eyes
No,
with the
no, that's the
guy. You
thing, right? He's
know,
gonna do something stupid like that, and you're like,
he's
ah,
trying to like seduce you into this. It's like James Harden style,
right.
where it's just slow and methodical. Then
And
out of
then
nowhere,
boom.
step
Yeah,
back, and it's
yeah,
like, wait,
yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
And I feel like he's just bored out there, and I feel like Israel Adesanya knew him so well, like knew Anderson's style
Watched
so
him over
well,
and over and over
and he
again.
didn't fall for any of the typical tricks that would frustrate most of the opponents that
I
face
think so.
Anderson. And I thought there was one moment that stood out to me the most was when Anderson was telling him to come fight him up against the cage.
Right, 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 right.
And then Israel backed up to the center of the stage and pointed in the middle and said, "No,
Mhm.
come here."
And he finally Anderson
And then
moved to the
Anderson listened
center.
to him, and I said that
Yes.
was the changing of the guard right
Yes.
there. I was like, that's like the torch being handed down
Yeah.
right there. It's like,
He's
no,
like, I'm
you
not gonna
come
play
here.
your game. You
Like,
play my
yeah,
game.
no, I like that. So I thought that was awesome, and um, it kind of leads naturally into the. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the fight itself. Obviously, me, I think the fight was fine. It was fun, and it wasn't a. It wasn't a brawl. It was two guys almost putting on a extremely serious sparring session.
Right.
It didn't feel like guys were going out there trying to catch blood. No one was going out there to take each other's head off. It was chess. Like on the
I
on the
think
hot,
so as
it
well.
was
Yeah.
chess on like the most hectic level. See, like when you see the guys standing in the middle just brawling, that's when it's checkers. Because
Right.
someone's gonna get hit, and it just has nothing to do with who's a better technical fighter or anything. This was all
Correct.
technical skill,
Yeah.
striking at least. The original main event, which was
Yes.
Whitaker and Gastelum. For those who don't know, obviously it's been a week now, so you should know. Whitaker was out with a sports hernia. His part of his abdomen was ruptured or something and protruded. It was just not a good look. So he had to go get emergency surgery that took about 4.5 hours, 5 hours. So he was in the recovery room while the main event was going on when he was supposed to fight in his home country of Australia. So when that happened, Gastelum was really upset, and he's like, "From my end of the woods, which is like amateur wrestling background, when you weigh in and you don't show
Right.
up, like that's a forfeit. So I'm the
Exactly.
champion." And it was like, okay,
No.
okay. First of all, it didn't seem genuine. It didn't seem like this is something that's actually him. It seemed like a guy who had worked for his title shot and was scared to lose it because Dana White has fostered an environment where you have to worry about if a guy isn't able to make your fight for a title fight, and you don't want to fight in a replacement fight beforehand. Say for example, Gastelum wants to wait until Whitaker.
Right.
Well, if he doesn't want to, another guy's fight, he might lose his spot.
Yeah.
Covington.
That's correct.
Colby Covington.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, and Colby Covington actually got an interim championship belt. Like you don't even have an interim
Yeah.
championship; you just grabbed it.
So you have no
You were walking around with
guarantees.
Henry Cejudo's belt, dude.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
Yeah.
So, that's A. B. Because Dana White has like fostered this environment, we have to worry about your championship ability. He started putting on this show so that he'd stay relevant, despite him not fighting that night. Because he's probably, and rightfully so, having a lot of trepidation toward Israel Adesanya taking his spot.
Oh, I think yeah.
With good reason. One of you fought, one of you didn't.
Yeah.
What's
One-
going to make more money for the thing so your organization celebrates personality, skill, obviously, personality, and making money.
Yeah.
And usually those last two tie into one another, personality and making money. Israel's got the star power. He's got the skill. He's got the following.
Yeah.
He's got the words. He's got the style. He's got the look. He just beat the guy. He's got all the momentum to coming in here to fight you for the interim championship. Like
Yeah.
realistically speaking, you might not be fighting. You might not be fighting Robert Whitaker.
Yeah,
Robert
I agree
Whitaker.
with that.
We're going to talk about Robert Whitaker's injury proneness in a little bit,
Hmm.
but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, I agree. I think, okay, let's start off there. I think Gastelum is a great fighter. I think he's amazing in terms of the fact that he's a little bit smaller for the division, let's say, in terms of this stature or
Hmm.
whatever. But he's that type of fighter, kind of like Kane, that would grind you down and
I
just
agree.
pressure and the wrestling and the punching is not bad.
And
And
he's not like he doesn't have like a dynamic skill set like Israel. It's
exactly,
very simple. I got
it's
a 1-2.
basic.
I have a 1-2, but my 1-2 takes me
And
very
he's
far.
so determined in there, right? It feels like he's got that next level determination. I feel like Gaston has an amazing chin as well, from what I've seen.
100%, I agree.
I think he's got one of the
We
best
saw him
chins,
on the
probably.
Ultimate Fighter. He was a second last pick in his season of the Ultimate
And
Fighter
he-
when it was Bisping versus Henderson as the coaches, and he won the whole thing facing
Exactly.
Uriah Hall, who had a lot
Right.
of hype behind
Right,
him,
right, right,
just
right.
like in Israel Adesanya. Continue.
There you go. So yeah, so I want to give Gastelum all the credit in the world. I think he deserves to be getting a title shot, to be where he's at, and all that stuff. Now, aside from that, I feel like I saw so many things wrong with this fight. Actually happening at the end of the day, which it didn't, which is I think a good thing. Even though as a fan I was a little disappointed, not a little, a lot, very disappointed that I didn't get to see it. But I think that first of all, their health comes first. Let's put it on the table. I don't want to see Whitaker die in a fight. I don't want to
That,
see.
it could have been fatal.
They were saying that
had it protruded and he got hit in that spot,
could have ruptured
It could
and-
rupture, and he could get septic because
Exactly.
now he's got a whole bunch of intestinal. We all know what our intestines or our bowels are
Right,
used
right,
for.
right.
Now you have a whole bunch of that running rampant throughout your body. That is not a good thing at all. And this is something that they said about the injury is the UFC doctors had never seen it. Because B, the doctors in Australia who had seen it said they only see what Whitaker had been experiencing in like 60 to 70 to 80-year-old people, people that are well up there in their
Wow.
age. So he's having symptoms of what most people that are more than double his age are
Yeah.
experiencing. He's 27 years old. He is.
right.
So this guy's 27 years old in the middle of entering his physical prime,
Yes.
supposedly,
Yes.
but he's fought twice in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's the other thing.
You want, and the best ability is availability. Look, Robert Whitaker is
Yeah.
another dude. Your talent is through the roof. He's so good, but he's also so brittle.
Yeah.
Both Yoel Romero in fights, he had an injury.
Broken
he
arm,
broken arm,
hand.
broken thumbs.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff
Yeah.
getting broken throughout these fights, and he's winning.
He is, which is the weirdest. I was rewatching some of those UL fights. The second fight, I think he broke his hand. He was literally punching him with just
Just his left and kicking,
his jab,
kicking
yeah.
with the right and kicking with the left.
Yeah.
He wasn't using the right at all.
and he was still like getting in there. Like
Yeah.
it was
Still swole.
against UL fucking Romero,
that's
man.
what I'm saying. It's crazy what happened there. And like again, so Gastelum's earned his shot. Whitaker's earned his keep as the guy who's the champion in
Absolutely.
there. But again, you need your guy fighting
Yeah.
frequently
Yeah.
and fighting often, and you need him also to have some personality. That's something that both Whitaker and Gastelum don't have that would serve the UFC better globally,
Yeah.
is having somebody be polarizing, having somebody be like, I'm player one, you're still on the loading screen.
Exactly.
You know, like that's the kind of stuff that like attracts younger kids, because that's what
Yeah.
attracted him to the sport in the first place. But
that's where
I
the
want to be a
money's
Ninja
at, too.
Turtles, one of the things he
Yeah,
was saying,
of
not just
course.
Anderson Silva.
Yes.
He said, yeah, I want to be Anderson Silva because I see some skinny black dude knocking everybody
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
But I also, he's like, I used to watch Ninja Turtles. I want to be Michelangelo.
Right.
And so, I mean, at the end of the day, like,
Don't
that's
forget
cool.
this.
It captures people's minds.
And don't forget this: those young kids, they don't have an idea who Anderson Silva is, man.
He has to be
Try
their
to
Anderson
explain
Silva.
to them now. Try as an older person. Try to explain to them. Oh, he was the OG. He was the shit back in the day. Nobody cares. You can't explain that to a
Ask
kid.
somebody about describing why Mark Price was one of the best three-point shooters in NBA
Right.
history, because he was one of the best three-point shooters in the 90s. No one wants to hear that. No one
No,
really cares.
No, but who do they want to see? Steph Curry.
They want to see Steph Curry, but sooner or later, Steph Curry will become the Mark Price
Absolutely,
that we're talking
of
about.
course. So that's what's the same. It's absolutely the same. So Israel's that new player one, that new face that appeals and attracts the kids, and it kind of like even for me, I feel a little bit older even though he's around
Yeah,
my age.
exactly.
Like, I feel like, what is he even talking about with all this Naruto stuff and like all this geeky stuff?
Oh.
But you know what? That's unique, and that's a lot of people gonna relate to that.
That is brand awareness, man. There's so many people that jump on it because he jumped on
Absolutely,
it when he was
man.
younger. Oh, he's talking about stuff that he likes too. He's not just like pulling the stuff up and doing like some cold research and be like, oh, my quantitative research says that this is the
Yeah.
topics that these people like. Like, no, he's speaking from the
himself.
heart, being
Yeah.
himself, and like that is what's that's authentic. It's genuine. It's endearing. It's attractive. It's magnetic. People love that kind of stuff. Well, and it's just he's a star. He's already a star. He just needs the belt and the shiny gold, and he needs the attention. He's been saying this whole time. He's like, I'm used to this. I was fighting in Saitama Arena, sold
Right.
out with 60,000 people watching me already. This doesn't mean that much to me. What I like the most too is he's lost before.
Yes. He's even been knocked out.
Those losses that's good.
No, it's good. Of course.
You win. You win. You learn more from your losses than your wins.
Absolutely. You don't want to be the Conor McGregor, although Conor had been choked out back in the day, but still kind of like, oh, unbeatable, whatever, comes in with this whole hype. And once he gets a couple of losses, it's like, okay.
The mystique is
What
gone.
are we doing now?
Mystic Mac isn't so mystic
It's no,
now, is
not
he?
mystic at all, no.
Right?
Anymore.
And people are seeing through a guy who fought, won a championship, never defended it, went up, fought, beat Eddie Alvarez, who's not gonna. No one's gonna say he's gonna go down as the best lightweight champion ever.
Right.
Took that championship,
Yeah.
and now you're sitting there and just being like, okay, so you won 2 belts, but you never defended one once, including WEC, including Strikeforce, including Cage of Champions. Every time he's won a championship, he's just dipped and gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and like
hilarious, actually.
retaining and defending is not a priority to him.
No. He
And
wants
like
to.
some guys take pride in that stuff. So he gets to fight Khabib after not fighting for a year because of his clout, his stature. He's at a point he was bigger than the UFC brand, which is
For sure.
He was bigger than the biggest fighting promotion
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's a product of his environment, and like Dana White let the dog off the leash, let him do whatever he wanted, resulted in some heinous acts by him, thinking he was above the law, throwing a dolly. He gets fined 50 grand. Khabib gets fined
Yeah.
10 times, $500,000 for jumping into the crowd, trying to exact revenge on a judicial system that never did any justice for him in the first place.
Sure. I get that.
Hate speech was uttered. Nothing was done about it that was worthwhile in his mind.
Right.
This guy's coming from the Dagestani mountains,
Yeah.
man. And he's talking about some dude from the hard streets of Dublin.
Right.
These two guys don't come from our neck of the woods out here, man.
Right.
This isn't North America. This isn't
Yeah.
like completely different styles. Of, like these guys are thinking on a deeper level, especially when Connor's digging deep. So when you look at all these things and then you start running that stuff on the promos, it shows you if your personality is big enough, I don't care what you do, says Dana White.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. John Jones, another example. We don't have to go detail all that either.
But yeah.
So then you go look at Anderson. This guy's going off, huge for the company. Israel's right in the same mold, man. Superstar, world renowned. Everyone knows who he is. Just a dominant force in the octagon. And because Dana White wants to cash in on that as soon as possible. Nothing's promised in this game, right? And that's where you have like a Whitaker and a Gastelum where it's like, damn, like not only is this guy skilled and could he beat me, but there's also incentive, natural business incentive, and this is what this is a business, for the UFC to prioritize getting Izzy in there and getting him a champion as soon as freaking possible.
And let me tell you something. If that was what would happen, if Israel was the one to get the priority shot, who is going to be disappointed? Let's break this down.
The fans love it. The fans would love it.
Other than Gastelum.
And that's the thing. It's a you problem at that point.
Exactly.
It's not Dana White's like it's not a me problem. I'm giving the fans what they want.
Can't
I'm
blame
giving
Dana.
myself what I want. I'm giving my shareholders
Yeah.
what they want. I'm giving Izzy what he wants. I'm giving whoever's fighting him for a championship what they want.
They're getting paid.
You can fight him
Yeah.
if you want, but you're not going to be fighting Whitaker. I don't think you're going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting this guy, and this guy's it's got a completely different beast altogether.
Yeah.
Like Gastelum can try to get on top of him and grind him, and I'd love to see what Izzy can do if he gets taken down and some dude's just
Yes.
grinding on top of him.
Yes.
I'd love to see what he'd do.
We haven't seen that yet.
We haven't seen it, so it's untested, it's unfazed territory. I'd love to see it. I think it's an intriguing matchup. Just understand, Gastelum, you are not the champion. Do not say this is my belt.
Yeah.
Do not say this is I'm the interim champion. Do not say I'm gonna fight Robert Whitaker when he's back.
I just wanted to put this out there. First of all, how did Gastelum get okay to fight? Did you see the freaking staph infection
It
yet?
looked like worms were coming out of his body.
Oh my
man.
god, bro! The
It
one
was-
on his neck.
On the back of his neck, it looked like it looked like what they plug you into in the Matrix.
Exactly. It was huge.
Dude. That thing was like it was like a pinky coming out of the back of his
Bro.
neck. I was like, "How are you cleared to fight?" And then
Yeah.
Connor tweeted and was like, "How are you gonna fight with worms coming out of your fucking
I am
body?"
with Connor on that one.
That
100%.
I would never, dude. That shit is contracted. And that thing's transmitted, I should say,
Exactly.
through skin to skin
Of course.
contact.
How
Well,
the
tell me
hell-
what happens in a fight. Like, come on, no skin.
And
to
he had him
skin.
all over on his lips, on his neck,
on his
on
mouth, under here, and on the back of
Yeah.
his neck. And he was like, "Yeah, like he's like the UFC doctor said that the clusters were going down at that point. It was worse.
Jesus.
It was worse than that the day before, like way worse apparently."
Whoa.
He was like, "The UFC doctors cleared me this morning because they wanted to see how he'd react to
Yeah.
these creams."
Oh, creams and
I
antibiotics.
don't, I'd be, dude. If I
Ugh.
was fighting, if I was defending my championship, I'm like, I'm not fighting this. This
No,
guy, this guy's
exactly.
basically got leprosy. I don't want this shit, bro.
Yeah.
I saw staph infection on Kevin Lee's chest, and it wasn't as bad. I mean, I saw a bump, but I wasn't like grossed out to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I have to turn this off, because I genuinely wasn't sure if this guy just came down with the worst case of herpes or what happened to like get Gastelum. I don't know what happened. It
Yeah.
was just like looked so bad. I'm like, did he get a sunburn to the point
Yeah,
where it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you know, like peeling? And I'm like, that's staph.
Because he was like on the embedder, whatever they had, and he wasn't. He had like a bunch of little band-aids or whatever on his lip, and I was like, "Oh, what is going on?" And he never addressed it. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
He just looked so gross.
Yeah, it just again boggles my mind
I
how
wouldn't-
the
I wouldn't let him
doctors
fight.
let him fight. Oh, here's some antibiotics. And
I'm
some
the
cream,
champion.
man.
No, you need to go to the hospital
bro.
too, bro.
Oh, he didn't show. Excuse me. You also shouldn't have.
I showed up to
shown.
work. It's like, dude, yeah, you showed up to work with like the measles. You
Yeah,
shouldn't be showing
yeah,
up, man.
yeah. Thanks for getting like even hypothetically, if you fought like Whitaker, if Whitaker was okay and you fought him, and Whitaker gets staph after the fight, regardless of the outcome of the fight, like how is that fair? Like this kind of should be like malpractice or something.
Yeah,
like
dude.
somebody's gotta get sued.
You shouldn't be coming in there looking like, no, I don't know what that was all
Bro.
about. So we were talking about the next step in middleweight in terms of what they probably want to do in terms of making money.
Yeah.
So moving forward for Whitaker specifically.
So wait.
Go
So
ahead.
first of all, wait. How long would Whitaker be out for?
With this injury, they told Dana 4 to 6 weeks to recover. That's not even including training. But there's been fighters who have had a similar like there's been other people that have had similar type of injuries and hernias. And my buddy told me he had a hernia. It took like 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. So it can take way longer than 4 to 6 to come back to the point where you can start training again.
Full
Then you got to
speed,
do
yeah.
a full training camp.
Yeah.
There might only be time. He might not be able to fight until like October,
Very possible.
November.
Very possible.
And you might want an interim title match in between then in the summertime.
Yeah.
So that's what
So I think
was
that's what's
thinking.
probably gonna happen, eh?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. And so in terms of Whitaker moving forward, what do you think about his injury proneness? Like it's kind of robbing him of his career.
Other than the hernia, obviously, which is, I guess, maybe a coincidence. I don't know. Maybe it just falls into the whole being injury prone. Yeah, I don't know. Other than the hernia, yeah, I think he has had knee problems, hand problems, whatever the hell. Like he's also breaking down. I think a lot of it is because of his explosive style as well. Now that's the other thing, though. When I was watching the Yoel fight, I was like, how the hell is Yoel so durable? Like Whitaker was like kicking him with like those front tips, kicks to the knee, like where you kind of stop where John
Those
Jones
push kicks
introduced
to the
those
knee,
push
yeah.
kicks to the knee, where it like kind of buckles your knee, like
Hyperextends your knee.
hyperextends your knee. He got Yoel with a bunch of
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
and Yoel's knee was going the other way, like
Yeah,
bending the other way,
hyperextending.
and Yoel kept going, like nothing happened. And I was like, okay, if that was my knee, I'd need crutches by the second round, you know.
It's true.
So I don't know.
I don't know what's gonna. He's so good, but he's also so injured. So we can only hope for the best and that he has a string of health because he's just been littered with these injuries for a while.
Yeah.
Anything else about the middleweight division in the UFC?
Well, who's Israel gonna fight? Who's Israel gonna fight?
This is true. I mean, I think Gastelum's the next obvious,
Right.
the next obvious choice in terms of who's next in line. That's the most fair decision. Whitaker can't fight. Izzy deserves a title shot. Israel went as far as to say that he would be willing to have the winner of when Whitaker and Gastelum do fight. He'd fight the winner of that. But I don't think he's
But
trying to sit out
that's-
for that
yeah.
long. So
And who else? Who else are they gonna give Gastelum? Like, there's no one else for Gastelum.
yeah, I'm not really sure who they'd want to go and throw out there. I mean, Yoel Romero is also sitting there
Yeah,
as
that's
another option.
true.
And Jacare Souza, like there are some guys, and I think is gonna want to stay busy. I don't know where Chris Weidman fits into this mix. I remember Chris Weidman was saying that Israel Adesanya was overrated. He said that about him after the fight was done with with Anderson Silva. Chris Weidman being the guy who beat Anderson Silva twice.
Yeah.
So I know, and he's like, I finished him. It's like, dude, this guy kind of broke his own leg,
Yeah, and then he was fooling around. in
and
the
then he was
first
fooling
one.
around, and you clipped him, and you weren't scared to go in and fool around.
Yeah.
But guess what? You could have been the one who got clipped if you didn't hit him. He
And-
was smart, didn't play the game, and he looked the best against Anderson Silva in terms of
That's true.
Anderson Silva's threat to beat the guy.
So I
other than
don't-
Chael Sonnen sitting
yeah.
on top of him for 5 rounds
Yeah,
when he entered
yeah.
the fight with a broken rib.
Right. Yeah. That's very true. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think someone like Weidman really has the is in the pla-
Weidman
in
is
the,
not gonna. I don't think
in the
Weidman.
place to make that type of comment. Yes.
I don't. Chris Weidman's probably. I don't know what it is. Just one of my least favorite fighters.
Oh yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
not my favorite
it's
either.
It's not like, and it's not even like I'm indifferent. I genuinely just don't like watching him. Like I just don't want to see him win. I don't know what it is that makes me not want to root for him. But
Well, first
I-
of all,
I
he
just-
never
there's
had
a-
like a really interesting style.
there's
Let's start with that.
stylistically,
Yeah.
we can start with the stylist for sure. Like I do not. It doesn't gravitate. Doesn't really resonate with me at all. Like I'm not. The whole mediocre stand up with some grinding wrestling. It's just like I'm not. There's nothing dynamic about it,
No,
you know.
nothing
And-
unique, nothing. Yeah, I don't know.
And for me, it's like, oh, I finished him and you didn't. It's like, dude, do you see what's going on in there? It's a technical chess match.
Yeah.
You were grabbing Anderson Silva every 2 seconds to take this dude down. And that's fine. That's smart if you want to win that way. But Israel Adesanya was testing himself on a higher plane of thought. Like these guys are existing on a different plane of striking than you ever will. Don't tell me that you looked more impressive. Anybody who knows striking can look at that and be like, that's more impressive. You're able to because think about it. When you're older, you can, even if in basketball, when you're older, your jump shot's the last thing to go.
Right.
When you're older, when you're Anderson Silva, your technique's the last thing to go. You know how to do it. You just don't get there as fast.
If anything, he's got to have more knowledge now, than he used to. So, but yeah,
So
you're right. You wouldn't be able to execute it as fast.
Exactly. It's just the speed element. And that's where Israel was getting the best of him in certain exchanges. Having that time to read it, and Israel being a student of the game.
I
like,
think he's also his smart.
he's very
was also what
studying a
helped,
lot.
yeah.
And when I see a man break his leg over you,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next time you catch him because he's playing games because he's just bored.
Yeah.
I mean, Anderson got bored in this fight, but Israel said, "Come over here and let's do it this way."
Yeah.
And I think Chris Weidman never fought Anderson Silva in his prime.
Mhm.
Anderson Silva wasn't in his prime.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva was just coming off of it. We just didn't know it yet. He fell off a cliff, proverbially.
Mm-hmm.
Israel Adesanya is on his way up the mountain. You want to fight the young lion, talk some grease about him? I don't know about that, bro.
It's
He's gonna you're gonna fight him at some point. Israel's gonna fight every single top guy in that middleweight division, and they're all gonna have their chance to come at him. And I think that's what's the most interesting. The interesting part, Yoel Romero is gonna got a date with him at some point. Luke Rockhold, he went up to light heavyweight, so that's pretty much done now.
right.
Kelvin Gastelum, he's gonna fight him like we were talking about. Chris Weidman, we were talking about. Jacare Souza is another one that's super interesting because that guy is strong, decent stand up, and he's got some strong ground game too. So Jacare Souza is a dangerous guy to fight, and I think they're all super interesting options. I think what the one thing that all these guys have in common is that they're able to wrestle at like an Olympic level or
Yeah.
like just below it.
That's true.
Like Yoel Romero wrestling, Jacare Souza grappling. It's his BJJ's world class.
Yeah.
Kelvin Gastelum, again, that grinding style of that wrestling. Chris Weidman. So we're looking at a lot of guys that aren't trying to necessarily, take you down.
Yeah.
Robert Whitaker would be more of a stand-up guy, I'd say. He uses his wrestling and his grinding a little, like just like when he needs to almost. He doesn't usually, he just finishes maybe a ground and pound on the ground here and there. But even for the most part, he's going to be standing up. I think it's an interesting division, especially with Israel Adesanya's style. So I think what's next probably would be Gastelum because he earned that next shot. I don't see you going in and be like, oh, we got to do Romero instead, or oh, we got to do Souza instead. Come on.
Yeah,
No?
it doesn't make sense considering the circumstances that Gastelum didn't get the fight now and he's ready and needs to get a fight anyway. And Israel also is in the spotlight. So yeah, I think that you're right. Maybe the next fight to come about would be Gastelum and Israel.
So-
And do you think Israel would win?
I don't think anyone's beating Israel right now. I think he's going to rattle off a few wins. He's
Okay.
going to win the championship. He's going to win like 2 or 3 fights in a row. And I don't know, maybe a new contender will emerge, but I don't see anybody at the top right now who I see people are going to give him a challenge, but I don't see anybody who's going to beat him once, then beat him twice, then beat him 3. They might beat him. They might beat him once, not going to beat him twice. This
Right.
guy seems like the kind of guy who downloads information.
Yeah.
Like, you might catch him. He's not unbeaten in his career. You might beat him in a one-off. This guy's not going to be a kind of guy who picks up 2-3 losses in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, one loss,
I think so too.
and he might go have a trilogy against someone who beats him once.
We could have.
He could. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this guy's not going to ever lose, but I
I
think he's
wanna
winning
see
2
him-
out of 3 fights against pretty much
Yeah.
anybody there.
I just out of those 5 that we just ran through, like you said, they're all pretty much grapplers, wrestlers. I would want to see it. Whoever. I mean, Gastelum. There you go. Maybe that's gonna be the first one. But I want to see how he does. I mean, I know he fought. What's his face? His last fight before Anderson. Brunson.
Oh, Bumson, yeah.
He's a wrestler, right?
We haven't seen Izzy fight a top 5 guy yet, and that's one thing that
Correct.
Weidman said about him that I have to agree about because that's just a fact.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with
Yeah.
a fact.
The thing is, I don't know if out of those 5, Weidman would be the only one that might not get a shot at Israel. Honestly, just because he might not stay relevant enough for long enough to get his turn with Israel. Because Israel is a hot commodity right now, and he's gonna get Gastelum. If he wins Gastelum, he will get even hotter, and then he's gonna have to fight. Let's say. Yeah, so he's gonna have to fight one of those top boys, and most likely Whitaker, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, it's just going to be very interesting to see
gonna
again
get tested a lot.
where he goes, where he goes from here. Whether in the next 5 fights he picks up 2 losses along the way,
Right.
or in the next 4 fights he goes and wins them all straight. What we're seeing is the beginning of a superstar, and he's so young. He's got literally 12 years of dominance still ready to go in his back pocket. Like, realistically speaking, like 12 years of elite competitive competition and 8 years at least minimum of him being in his prime going off. So
As long as it doesn't
this is the
get
beginning
injured,
of a
man.
special ride. Where it goes from here, if it gets derailed, how it gets derailed, how often it gets derailed. These are all question marks that we have to see because, again, he hasn't fought any top 5 guys. So we'll see, though. I mean, it's a very dangerous striker and with a lot of wrestling top 5 guys out there, grapplers. it's going to be interesting watching him try to stay standing.
Yeah.
If his wrestling defense is as good as it looks against Derek Brunson, then that's a different level.
Correct.
And if he can keep it standing, these guys are going to get picked apart because none of them strike on the same level as
If
Anderson
he can
Silva
do,
today.
if he can do what Max Holloway is doing,
Staying standing.
because Max Holloway's proved, I think, to this point, he proved to all of us that he's got one of the best pros, one of the best takedown defenses. If Israel can achieve that level of takedown defense, just he can be like this, they have the same effect as Max Holloway in the 145 division. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm with it. We'll see him tested. Interesting character to pop out of.
One
out
thing
of
that
the
just
blue.
popped in my mind, what do you think about Israel Adesanya eventually at some point? Do you think he'd end up going up or going down in a weight class?
Oh, I
he'd
would
have to
imagine
go up.
Yeah,
He'd have to go up.
Yeah.
He's
he's
already
already so skinny
and middleweight and middleweight to welterweight is too big of a
yeah,
jump. Yeah, I know.
I don't think
I mean,
he can make that.
him fighting at 205 would be very interesting.
The guy's 6'4" as well, right? Like he's a tall dude, and he's already like very low fat percentage.
We'll
and-
see, man. Very interesting. But yeah, okay.
yeah,
so
I would see him in the light heavyweight division one day for sure, which would be great.